This week is a very special Shabbat. We have two parashiot. We are finishing the book of Shemot, Sefer Hagalud ve'Hageula. And we have an extra reading called Parashat HaChodesh as we welcome on Sunday Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Nisan milashon nisim, miracles that we should be'ezrat Hashem witness this upcoming month. Haba alenu letova, amen. But there is always this second wheel. This guy that we don't talk about so much, the Parashat Pekudei. Parashat Pekudei is always the one that most darshanim neglect, forget to talk about. And I decided today, as a mission, to talk to you only about Pekudei. You know, the word Pekudei is very difficult to translate from Hebrew. If I take a translation, I'm going to find probably different versions in English, because there is no specific word to define the meaning of Pekudei. And yet, it is the parasha that is the afikoman, the aftertaste, the final blow of this beautiful book, Sefer Hagalud ve'Hageula, the book of Shemot. Such a random name, such a random word that is again so difficult to translate. So let's actually find out what Pekudei really means. In Hebrew, there is a word that is close to the word Pekudei, and that is pakid. A pakid is someone that we appoint for a certain job, a certain mission. And we find actually in several places in the Torah itself that this fits the context. For example, Yosef HaTzadik, appointed by Potiphar in his house to be the manager of pretty much all his assets, the Torah says, Vayakhel al beto. He put him in charge. He gave him the job to manage his assets and finances. We also find in leadership, when Moshe Rabbeinu asked Borei Olam to have the next leader appointed, Yehoshua, Moshe Rabbeinu, says the Pasuk, said to God, Yifkod Hashem Elohei haruchot lechol basar, to appoint someone in charge of the Jewish people. And even in the Tanakh, in Megillat Esther, when we just read about Ahashverosh sending emissaries, people in charge of spreading the word, the Pasuk says again, Veyafked hamelech pekidim bechol medinot malchuto. Veyafked, to appoint again people in charge of a specific task. And that is also, in this week's parasha, in the first Pasuk, the meaning of the next sentence. Ele pekudei hamishkan, mishkan ha'edut asher pukad al pi Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu was in charge of building the Mishkan. But the question remains, what about the first Pekudei? What is the meaning of Pekudei HaMishkan? The Mishkan was in charge of something? Very, very weird and random word. So let's try to actually answer that question. And like I usually do, I like to always go back to the basics. And the basics for the book of Shemot will be the first parasha of the book, Parashat Shemot itself. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu hires Moshe Rabbeinu to be the leader of the Jewish people. And there is something that he tells him. When he appears to him the first time by the Saneh, by the bush, he says, Pakod pakadti etchem, ve'ed he'asui lachem b'mitzrayim. He tells Moshe Rabbeinu the same exact word, Pekudei, pakod, and I'm not going to translate that yet. Pakod pakadti etchem, and whatever was done to you guys, to the Jewish people in Egypt. It seems that it's about remembering. Borei Olam says, I remember my people. I remember to save them. And that's why I need you. And guess what? These words are going to work like magic, because when Moshe Rabbeinu will go to the Jewish people, the Pasuk says, Vaya amen ha'am. The Jewish people believed, they had emunah. Why? Vayishme'u ki fakad Hashem et onyam. The same exact word. Pakad, poked. The Jewish people hears that word, and it's like magic. They wake up. They believe. Their faith ignites inside them. How? What happened? So I have to tell you that Moshe Rabbeinu was not the first one to hear about Pakad, Pakod, Yifkod. In fact, we have to go back to the book of Bereshit. Yosef HaTzadik already warned, already predicted that there was going to be a Geula. And he took the Jewish people responsible. He took them as his faithful promise accomplishers, that they would carry his bones back to Eretz Israel. And what did he say? Pakod yifkod Elohim etchem veha'alitem et atzmotai mizeh itechem. Again, he's using the same word, Pakod yifkod, twice. So when the Jewish people hear from Moshe Rabbeinu, Pakod pakadati etchem, God is going to use those words again. It rings in their ear because they have that tradition that there is something, there is a magical word that they need to hear at the Geula, and that is the word Pakod Yifkod. And that reminds them of Yosef. That reminds them of hope. But why? How does that work? What is the magic? I want to take you again all the way back towards the beginning of the book of Bereshit. When is the first time that the Torah is using the word pakad, poked? I didn't do a lot of research, but that pasuk rang in my ears. Borei Olam, as he is creating the Jewish people from the roots, tells Avraham Avinu, you're going to have a descendants. In the very beginning, Parashat Lech Lecha, he appears to him and he says, Ve'e'escha legoy gadol. And Avraham Avinu is waiting for years. And finally, God remembers. God gives him a son. What is the word, the magic word, again, the key words in the pasuk to say that God finally remembers? V'Adonai pakad et Sarah ka'asher amar, vayas Adonai leSarah asher diber, v'tahar v'telet Sarah leAvraham ben nizkunav. The Torah starts off again with the word pakad. Pakad is about the promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made all the way to Avraham Avinu to have a goy gadol, to have a tremendous, exceptional, beautiful descendants. And Yitzhak comes in the picture, followed by Yaakov, the Shevatim, and us, Am Yisrael. The word pakad is very much connected to the children, to the future, to the descendants. And that's why it appears in Sarah Imenu giving birth to Yitzhak. And by the way, just very randomly, fast forward Parashat Ki Tisa, you have the same word. What does it say? Poked avon avot al banim. Is it random? Of course not. There is some kind of a link, of a kesher in the word pakad, future, hope, children. This is what rings in the ears of Am Yisrael when they hear the word Pakod Pakadati Etchem. They remember Avraham Avinu, they remember Yitzhak, they remember that tradition that sometimes God has a plan and it takes time until finally things come out to work out beautifully. And they are ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, so they believe. And Moshe is using those words, and the Am answers by saying, we believe. This is, my friends, the whole essence of Pesach, by the way. It's all about the children. How does God call us? Beni Bechori Israel. For the first time, we are the children of God. And where is the spotlight on the night of the Seder? All about the children. Why? Because a child is the one being that is experiencing, feeling what we call unconditional love. And that is what Pesach is about, the declaration of love to Am Yisrael by Borei Olam. And you know what else? The Mishkan. Ele Pekudei HaMishkan, Mishkan HaEdut. The Mishkan testifies the love of God to us. Why does God want the Mishkan? It's all about love. It's about the unconditional love that the Father has for His children. And that is again the word Pekudei. That is the best afikoman of the book of Shemot. It's all about love. And that's how we end the book of Shemot. Looking for the love of Borei Olam, His protection, and of course, our love back to Him. Shabbat Shalom U'Barach.